Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boosts every single day. Rudo and AJ coming at you. Going to be answering some listener questions for the show today. Figured it was a good time to do that as we're kind of not quite 10% of the way through the season, but, you know, we're getting there. So
yeah, it's also kind of a weird day with Megan off for personal reasons, and Jesse got on an airplane.
Finland, yeah.
Got on an airplane about 2 hours ago to begin his journey to Finland. So
Yep.
We're just hanging out on a snow day, man.
Lots of stuff going on there. Yeah, it did snow technically today. I don't know. It didn't stick in my neck of the woods at all. So I don't know.
I don't have any. The way that I gauge the snow here, since I moved into this place, is that if I have some in the window well, then it's real snow. And if there's not, then it's not real snow. But I mean, first snow of the year, right? And it's like cold, and it's still like cold and rainy outside. So
for sure, it's definitely. I'm never a fan of when it gets to freezing temperatures in the evenings and nights, but
see, I've actually had my window open almost every day, even with it being like 35 degrees, and it's a little too cold, but I do find comfort in it.
Not looking forward to snow drives into the bar from this place. Put it that way.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I'm not looking forward to having to go back up to Winnipeg for winter again.
Yeah.
There are some things, man, about that are not. There's just not great, but.
Well, either way, we're going to be getting into some questions. I don't think there's any reason to beat around the bush today. Let's just get to our main topic of the day. It's the thing everyone wants to hear about. Jean-Luc Foudy.
It's funny. It's funny how these things go, right? It goes from 0 to 100 on a guy like Foudy, where when we were talking about guys pushing for roster spots and making the team and getting top 6 jobs in the AHL, like Foudy was the guy that we always just sort of left out of the conversation.
Yep.
One, because he's so young.
Yeah, right. The conversation was, well, he has plenty of time.
Yeah, and he's so young, and when you compare him to, you know, Ranta and Kaut and Bowers and all these guys, right, that have been in the system, and even, you know, now how things have gone with Ben Myers and everything.
Yep.
You know, it's just been it was like Foudy was just sort of the guy that we were like, look, we'll see how it goes, but no expectations, no pressure there for this season, because this was supposed to be his first pro year.
Yep.
It obviously is his third pro year, but
well, and it looks like it.
And it's funny because, like, we're 5 games into the AHL season, and
he's got 7 points.
Yeah, like Foudy looks great so far, right? But you're talking about 5 games, and now all of a sudden, like, he's the big shiny, and now everybody's like, oh, where does this go? Like, what's the deal here? And it's like, well,
wait till game 10 at least.
like, let's see how this goes with Foudy, because I will say, yeah, Foudy is the one that I joked should have been moved to defense because they didn't have any prospects there. That was not serious, by the way. I don't want to actually do that. But I you know, with Foudy so far, like, he does look great. He was great last night. Obviously the between the legs goal is like
fun for sure.
It's a fun, like, flashy highlight.
Yeah.
But more than anything, that's this guy has a ton of confidence thing.
Yep.
Then, like, wow, this guy's so ready for the NHL. You know, like, it's there's a lot that still has to go into Foudy's development here. He's still too much of a perimeter player. He's a guy that really has to figure out how to get inside the home plate area on a consistent basis. because uh, the way that he has utilized his skating for most of his pro career, I think Greg Cronin put it perfectly when he said that he would get on the merry-go-round around the zone,
Yep.
and then that would just be it. And like that, it's great that he could do that. It's great that he has the skating ability and the puck skill to do something like that. It's dangerous. Kirill Kaprizov made a highlight reel play off of something like that
By going
last year.
around the zone 3 times.
Yeah, people lost their mind over it. It's like Jean-Luc Foudy does this every day. Um, but the development of him trying to do that versus getting to the home plate area and getting inside the tougher areas of the ice is a very, very important part of his development. It
And
opens up all of his playmaking to a totally different level.
well, and for what it's worth, I think he's done a decent job of that tonight. I was kind of laughing,
Yeah.
or rather this season so far. I was laughing to myself when I found the picture for the prospect portfolio because I'm going through the Eagles pictures, and every like fifth picture is a photo of Foudy getting checked into the opposing team's goalie.
Yeah, and he's got to figure out if he's willing to take that kind of punishment on a regular basis, because if he is, his game is going to go to another level. And
Yep.
I mean, early returns this year obviously are great, but between his skating and his vision and his playmaking, like the one thing is if you had watched the scouting, from our guy Will Scouch, if you watched his draft report on Foudy, the playmaking was very, very high end in the OHL, and that he wasn't on a very good team, and he wasn't on a team that was, because it wasn't very good, didn't finish very many of the opportunities that he created, but he created such a high volume of them.
Yep.
He was consistently one of the best and highest end playmakers of his draft year, but the shot and just the lack of dominance in the OHL is what really led to him dropping from late first round prospect to guy that got drafted in the third round.
Yeah, it's for me the two other big issues with him besides needing to get off the perimeter. The shot, like you mentioned, that shot's just not going to beat NHL goaltenders, at least not very often. And decision making. You mentioned the merry-go-round stuff. He gets caught at times high in the zone, being a little bit too loose with pucks, and it can create some not so good breaks the other way.
Yeah, I worry about his his defensive zone stuff.
Sure.
Especially because they've moved him around wing center a lot. They've really looked like they've found a good spot for him on the right wing.
Yep.
Which, I mean, that's the wing where the Avs have like the most
depth of all depth. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that's if that's where he's best,
break in. Yeah.
If that's where he's best, then that's where he's best. But it is kind of like can we get one left wing out of this crop? Like, good Lord. But no, his defensive zone game is still something that I think is a real work in progress. The processing, I think, is there. I think he reads the game well enough. I just don't know that he's very comfortable engaging the way that he needs to.
Yeah, look, if you want to be successful defensively in the Avs system, just play like Logan O'Connor. The Avs won't, like, if you're out of position, sometimes they'll live with that if you're playing like a psychopath.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So with Foudy, like, look, it's a really good start. It's exciting. It's fun. But there's a lot more that needs to go into it, and I still don't think that he's like close to a call up or anything.
Like world's best case scenario, I think you're looking at him fighting for a call up at the end of the year, and there's a lot of limitations there. on players getting called up at that part of the season. So realistically,
Yeah,
if
I
things
mean,
go really well, that's a dude you're looking at next training camp trying to earn a job. And that's like best case scenario.
yeah, I mean, I guess, look, like, there's a world where he continues at this point per game pace for the next 20
Right.
games.
And it just becomes
And
undeniable at a certain point. But
yeah, and the Avs haven't really found what what they're looking for in the call-ups. They're still uncomfortable at the NHL level. They have enough injuries or lack of production, I guess, that they cycle through a few more AHL call-ups. Like, I guess maybe then, you know, I could see that. But I do like, I hate to be the downer all the time, but I would still say we should probably slow the roll for now. But it is a hot start worth being excited about. Like, enjoy that and just hope that it continues.
it's just the reality. It's the same thing with Nichushkin, right? If you're expecting Nichushkin to be a 100-point player, you're probably overselling it a little
You're
bit.
probably setting yourself up for some level of
Yeah.
disappointment along the way.
Exactly. So, not that he's not playing great, not that he's not a
Right.
really good player, but
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair enough parallel to draw to say, yes, the small sample has gone very well. If it continues up long term, then they're very, very, very fortunate. But it's very hard to do that. Even in the AHL, the point per game guys, especially at that age, are not common.
Yep.
I mean, Mikko did it once upon a time. Last couple of years, we've seen
you see one or two guys in the league really do that.
Peltier did it
Yep.
with Stockton last year. You saw Jack Quinn in Rochester. Like, not tons of guys do it. The AHL veterans, the Charles Houdons and the Dylan Sakuras and Kiefer Sherwoods of the world. Those guys, yeah, those guys do it every year. Those types of guys, but it's the 20-year-olds
Yep.
at point per game paces in the AHL that you don't see too frequently. So,
Did have a little bit of a follow-up question there from Luke from Winnipeg, who says, is Greg Cronin the right person for developing and coaching the AHL team based on his body of work? I don't want to spoil this too much because I know we have a piece from Megan coming.
yeah, there'll be a piece. Megan got up there and talked in Loveland with Greg Cronin and Kevin McDonald about kind of the regime change up there, handing over the management from Greg Billington to Kevin McDonald this year, and a lot of really great quotes about how they run everything and the leadership there. So that'll be out probably right after the show is over. It'll be out pretty quickly. It's done and ready to go. So
go give that a read after the show.
It's that'll be a good read, and most of our pieces on the site are being made free right now. So even if you don't have a subscription to the site, you should probably keep your eyes out for that one. Yeah. So I mean, is Greg Cronin? I would say Cronin has been the best AHL coach that they've had in a long time. He's gotten the most successful, he's found the most success among their AHL teams. They make the playoffs every year. Making the postseason used to be a really big deal for Colorado's AHL team because it just never happened.
Yep.
And since Cronin showed up, they've made it every year.
They've never missed.
So,
to be fair, the Colorado Eagles as an organization have never missed.
Right, but when they made the jump from the ECHL to the AHL, they were in a whole different ballgame.
You're not wrong.
And like, the Avs also knew that, hey, they were going to have to make a commitment to the Eagles, that they could not have like the Monsters tenure repeat itself.
Well, and what excites me this year about the AHL is I do think we're starting to move away from do whatever it takes to make the playoffs to they're a playoff team, and we're seeing more opportunity for the prospects, particularly in the Eagles' top six.
Yeah, their forward core really, and like their defense doesn't really have much in the way of prospects there
The Evs
anymore.
pool is just empty. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's like Zhravolov is and Klerman are like the only guys that I guess Wyatt Amott. If you want to consider them like prospects,
Yeah.
that's fine. They're on NHL deals, so I guess it's fair to call them a prospect. But their forward core, they really have leaned hard into letting the kids really be the driving force. I mean, Shane Bowers. We're not even talking about the guy. Shane Bowers is off to a great start in the AHL this year.
Yeah, picked up a goal the other night too.
So and you watch those games, impact player all over the ice. He shows up he's showing up in the AHL in a way that he has really struggled to in the past. And there are so many reasons for the Bowers struggles over the years, but if he's healthy and just getting a job that he gets to go out and just play every night, that's really I think what he needed, and that's what he's gotten so far, and the results are good.
Yep.
But Maltsev, before he got called up, Maltsev was doing well. Kaut had like a good couple of games,
Yep.
Anyway, and for right now, to answer Luke's question, I'm happy with Crow as leading the AHL team. They're on the same page with the NHL club. Everybody feels good about everything. The arrangement really has been fine. You can make the argument that it hasn't borne a lot of fruit in terms of prospect graduations yet, and fair enough. Like if that's how you're measuring it, then Cronin has not been successful. But there's so much more to it of being the AHL coach than just that. Just do you get players to the NHL? And do they hang out in the league? And then obviously the complication of the Avs being as good as they've been changes it because
hard to get a spot.
Yeah, it's hard to win a job, and team's pretty good.
One more question for period one here. Can Jean-Luc Foudy dunk?
I'd be willing to bet no.
I would bet no as well.
But maybe the next time that Megan is up there, if he doesn't run away from her again.
Get that question asked.
Yeah, she can ask him.
All right. We are brought to you by Pins and Aces, the official golf apparel merchandiser of DNVR. You can go over to pinsandaces.com and use code DNVR to get 15% off your first order and get free shipping. They have a bunch of awesome stuff: polos, hats, golf bags. Everyone's favorite, the beer sleeve, holds 7 beers, goes right in your golf bag. You can bring them right onto the course, keeps them nice and cool. It's amazing work from Pins and Aces. Go check them out again at pinsandaces.com. We're also brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. You can go over to DraftKings.com. Okay. That wasn't that bad. Wasn't that
Bless
loud.
you.
Thank you. Go over to DraftKings.
It's really quite manageable, given the way that those things pop up mid-sentence.
Go to DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. When you go over there, use code DNVR on a new account. You bet $5, you can get $200 in free bets. When you bet on an NBA team to win their next game, if they do, you get the $200 in free bets, which you can then turn around and bet on whatever you're feeling, whether it be the NHL, the NBA, any other crazy sport you want to bet on. You can pretty much bet on it no matter what it is. There was the International for Dota last week. That was fun. I made a little bit of money on that.
League of Legends World has been going on for a few weeks now.
It has been. Yep. You can bet on that as well.
Yeah. So. I've enjoyed watching, man. When I saw a Mumu getting played, I just cried.
You were about it.
I was like, oh my God, because he was my main back when I played League, and he never got picked in the pro scene for like 10 years. And then he was a priority pick at the start of Worlds, and I was like, I gotta watch Worlds now.
All right.
And it's been normal Worlds. Korea dominates.
Oh yeah, that standard World stuff there.
Yeah.
So head on over.
Showed up.
Head on over to DraftKings. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Other terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Of course, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Answering some questions today. This one comes from Casey, who asks, if you all had to pick one, would you rather the Avs switch to their 2 Stadium Series kits as their full-time uniforms, or have them officially rebranded as the Rocky Mountain Extreme?
I don't care. I think Colorado Avalanche is a super cool team name. Rocky Mountain Extreme would be super cool in a really like Mountain Dew sort of way.
Different way, for sure.
Yeah.
I'd go extreme. I'd go extreme just because that home jersey would be absolutely hideous.
Yeah, I will say the one. I mean, you could always like, how long do you have to keep the jersey, right?
Right,
Like, is it 1 year that you roll with it and are like, this is a nightmare, and then you're just like, okay.
Like the away is fine
switch it back.
with the C on it and Avs colors, fine.
Yeah, the stolen Cubs logo, it's whatever.
Yeah,
That doesn't.
but the home would be truly terrible. So,
Yeah. If you could give me the practice jersey from the
absolutely.
Air Force Stadium Series game, then I'm in.
Practice jerseys can be the home. I'm about it. Yeah, see, I know you think they're supposed to both be evil options, but we're 2 90s kids, so.
Yeah, honestly, Rocky Mountain Extreme, you serious? Sounds fun. Sounds like a minor league baseball team. I don't know. I will tell you, it would be really weird to see Rocky Mountain Extreme engraved on the Stanley Cup.
That would be strange. Would definitely be strange.
That actually feels a little taboo now that I'm thinking about it, with the like the giant X, like extreme.
Next question from Justin. What's your take on the first almost 10 games? Are the Avs better than last year? Is Georgiev emerging as a top tender in the league?
No, they're definitely not better than last year. Georgiev has a long way to go to be a top 10 tender in the league. The early returns are positive. They have a really big 5v5 problem that's developed. They have a really top heavy group, and the depth hasn't really stepped up yet. Alex Newhook has 0 points. Evan Rodriguez has 2. I think JT Compher has 1 assist. You're really not getting a lot out of. You've got 4 forwards who are giving you points, and Lehkonen, of those 4, like Lehkonen is the 4th, where he hasn't really been overly dangerous in like a week.
Outside of the first game of the season.
Yeah, like the very start of those first couple of games, it was like, wow, Arturi Lehkonen looks great, but it hasn't really continued. It's not that he's been bad. He has 5 points in 7 games. Like, let's not, but it's like Andrew Cogliano has 3 points.
Yep.
Like
if you're getting outscored by Andrew Cogliano.
Yeah, and I do think it is a disappointment. Newhook, no points. Compher, 1 point. LOC has 2 points. Rodriguez, 2 points. Like, your defense is really doing a lot of heavy lifting here.
It's weird even then, right? Both of LOC's points are shorthanded.
Yeah.
Like, they're not really doing anything at 5-on-5.
Yeah, when you're looking at the 5-on-5 play, that third line doesn't do anything. The fourth line barely plays.
Yep.
And so you have half of your forward core accomplishing nothing.
Yep.
And then Rodriguez, same thing. Both of his goals,
power play.
Or he's got 1 power play goal and 1 even strength goal.
And then like half of Nuke's production is on the power play too, even on the second line. Yeah.
Even when you look at Val Nichushkin, you are talking about that dude. Yeah, he has 6 of his points are power play points. So, they've got a problem there. We knew that there was. You wanted Newhook to come out a little faster than this in the production department, but also we watched, and he's had some up and down games. It's not like he's been so good and he's just so snake bit or whatever. But he has had games where he's been really dangerous. like Philip Grubauer stopped him from having like a 3-point night against Seattle that game. Like he was awesome that night. He was one of their only good skaters in that game.
He just needs to get one, and I think the floodgates will open. But
yeah, so
like
early returns, the defense is a lot better. I think it's a lot deeper.
I agree there. I see the comment in chat about Kadri. The Avs didn't have $7 million to spend on him. It's just...
like this idea that okay, like you have Nazem Kadri, you have him for 7 years. You're taking on 100% of the aging risk. You have all your full boat, right? Like you're taking on the full boat of the downsides of that contract. And looking at it 6 games in and being like, well, Kadri would help. Yeah, of course he would. But how much longer is he going to be that caliber of player?
And again, it's not, the Avs just have Kadri. If they have Kadri, that means they probably
there's no Josh Manson.
Have Josh Manson. Probably don't have Comfer. Yeah.
They probably don't sign Val Nichushkin.
Or that's the other option. Yeah.
And because they wouldn't, Josh Manson alone doesn't pay for Nazem Kadri.
Yep.
So, there needed to be something else. Like we knew that it was going to be tough when you lose. Nazem Kadri had 80 plus points last year. Andre Burakovsky had 61 points last year. You knew it was going to be hard. And it is. You're at the start of the year. It's tough. You're asking Alex Newhook, who'd never done it before, and Evan Rodriguez, who kind of did it last year. Like, you're asking those guys to step into those roles, and we'll see how it goes.
Semi-topical question there from the Evan Rodriguez stay-in account. Lots of award talk on the last show. Does Erod get more Selke votes this year on the Avs than he did last year?
No.
I agree.
I think, look, if Landy was healthy and Rodriguez was their third line center, and that line was going off, was all world defensively, you could have the conversation. I mentioned it last night. On yesterday's show, I personally would not be giving Selke votes to depth guys like that. If you're not playing against the best of the best, you can't argue that you're the best.
Even if you're okay with giving depth guys Selke votes, you're looking at the Avs roster, and there are better defensive forwards above him in the lineup, so it becomes really hard to give him the votes.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. But he is off to a really good start analytically. He has lived up to his reputation, so that's great. But in terms of Selke votes, no.
Mayo on a burrito or pickle flavored pancakes?
Yeah, mayo on a burrito. It's not so bad. I probably wouldn't enjoy it all that much. Like, what else is in the burrito?
Pickle flavored pancake sounds genuinely disgusting.
Yeah, that's
even
horrific.
As someone who likes pickles, what the hell?
Yeah, you made that too easy. That's nasty. Like, that's just nasty. Like, why would you ruin a perfect food such as a pancake?
Way too early trade targets. They say don't say Taves and Kane, but Jonathan Taves.
Well, so right now, if you're talking about you've got a center problem, and you're struggling with the assets like the Avs are, where their best assets are Sean Barons, Oscar Olsen, and their first round pick this year. Yep. Those are their 3 best assets. You really don't want to move those.
Yep.
You really don't want to move those. The appeal of Jonathan Taves would be that he's not going to cost you any of those. He's just not. He's not going to be worth any of that. Even he's off to a good start this year, but it's not the kind of start that is like, well, maybe a first round pick. It's not that kind of start. He's off to it's better, but you're talking like a third round pick for that guy right now. Yep. Right now, we'll see at the deadline if it gets more competitive. That might get bumped up to a second, which is hard for Colorado because they don't have one.
Yeah.
I think they have a 2025 second.
Yeah, if they want to go 3 years into the future.
Yeah. but like I see Kevin continues to bring up Bo Horvat like that's the answer to everything, but that's gonna take more assets. Also, Bo Horvat is wildly overrated, and I don't know if you guys know this, but gets chewed up defensively. Um, has for a couple of years. I really like Bo Horvat. He's like my weak spot in terms of the archetype of player. But when I'm being objective about it and not just being like, but I love watching him play. Don't you understand that matters to me? Like, if I'm being objective and I take into account the analytics and the actual on ice results and everything else that happens, Horvat is absolutely not worth. Especially if you're a pending free agent. Like, you don't want to continue the cycle of you're giving up a bunch of assets for guys that you hope want to sign with you at the end of the year. Because like last year with Manson and Lehkonen and Cogliano, that's the rarity. That is not a thing that happens.
Could you could you be talked into a more of a depth option?
So the one guy that I am keeping my eye on, the problem here is that his salary is too high.
Okay.
But Anthony Beauvillier out of the Islanders is a guy that I'm really keeping an eye on.
You're speaking my language. I'm all
because
about
that is a versatile guy. For me, there's your JT Compher replacement.
Yep.
And like this year you acquire him and you keep him. Obviously, he's on your team. But then when Compher leaves in the offseason,
you have that extra year of him. Yeah,
you're good there. But I think Beauvillier would be a guy that, look, if the Islanders continue to toil at the bottom of their division and they're not on the outside of the playoff race, that's a guy that I've got eyes for that guy, knowing that they also have, they've got their own issues on the island right now. So that's like Jonathan Taves, Bo Horvat. Those are the easy big names off the top of your head that are that like, oh hey, these guys will headline the deadline. Oh,
yep.
That's a fun way to put that.
Headline the deadline.
Yeah. I am curious to see, like, obviously what happens in Vancouver. How does that further develop?
Sure. If they
do they
continue to just
move
fall
guys
off the face of the earth, yeah.
Yeah, because I openly wonder about a guy like Brock Besser. Now that's costly.
Yeah.
But he's at least signed for a couple of years. It doesn't really it doesn't address obviously a center issue, and he's injury prone. And there are fair questions to ask of how good is he? Like, how much does he really, really push you forward? But I wonder about that. I wonder about a guy like that. Connor Garland is a hard no for me. I think Connor Garland is your classic archetype of an empty points guy. A guy that can produce points on bad teams because he gets put in lots of advantageous positions, and then when he gets on a good team, a serious team, he's going to disappear. I'm out. I'm not interested in Garland at all.
Rich man's Rocco Grimaldi.
Yeah. Like, he's a fine NHL player and all, but are you winning a Stanley Cup with Connor Garland as an important part of your team? For me, the answer is no.
I mean, I think Garland probably ends up as a third liner on this team if they were to go get him. So,
anyway. And then he's signed for
a billion years. Yeah,
there's some appeal in that because Colorado going out and getting guys and having to figure that out. Oh, what are these unknown numbers? All the time can be difficult, but until you know what's going on with Byram's next deal, until you know what's going on with Newhook's next deal, I do think it is hard to import that kind of money into your structure. But and look, it's not even just those guys. You're seriously concerned about bringing back Devontae.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions in the next 2 years the Avs are going to have to answer.
Do you want to commit? Do you want to commit to do you want to commit to a guy like a Besser or a Garland or whatever, one of these guys, even a guy like Beauvillier. Do you want to commit to those guys? Do you want to commit to their money? And then when it comes time, Devontae's walks because you committed to those guys. Now, hey, if you've won another Stanley Cup in that time, it's really, really, really hard to say it's not worth.
Hard to feel bad about it at that point.
Yeah, really, really hard to say not worth. But for right now, I think the trade deadline stuff is normally it's too early because it's just too early. Like there's just no need for it. But right now, it's too early because you don't know what you're going to need in February.
Well,
you don't know who Rodriguez and Newhook are going to be. You don't know how they're going to develop. You don't know, look, like what if one of these guys, one of these guys that they call up, what if a Maltsev or a Couch sticks?
Right.
Then you don't need to go out and get another fourth line guy at the deadline.
It's not only you don't know what you need, you don't know what's out there. If Vancouver rebounds, they're not going to give away Bo Horvat. If they're back in the playoff picture in the Pacific Division.
Yeah, I mean, if they're competitive, if they're within a handful of points and they're like, well, if things break our way for 2 weeks, maybe we're in this thing. Yeah, they're not. They probably won't be interested in that.
So,
yeah, I just it's the hard part when we want to. Normally, when we talk about the deadline, it's just like it's too early for this conversation because it's just it's just roster baiting purely for the pleasure of roster baiting.
Absolutely.
Right now, the big thing with the Avs is like you just don't know what they're going to need help with. I know that there are people that will be wildly confident and be like, this guy's not going to make it. He doesn't have it, or like whatever, and they're just going to decide that they know what Colorado needs. But last year, the Avs were like top of the league, and they rolled into the trade deadline and added 4 guys.
Yep, it crazy stuff happens.
Like they found a way to get that much better at the deadline last year, and a team that was already pretty damn good.
All right, we need to change the trade deadline rules. Every GM has to blow a blood alcohol content level of at least 0.1 on trade deadline day.
And they have to do it on TV.
Yep. It has to all be like live and recorded.
I'll tell you, every call that they make that doesn't result in a deal, they have to take a shot.
There we go. Now we're talking. If you want to keep up with that pace, go get yourself some Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. You can find it at your local liquor store using the Breck Beer Locator online, or of course, come on down to the DNVR bar where you can get it. 8 different kinds on tap there. Check them out at breckbrew.com. You also brought to you by Green Mountain Dental Group, the best family dentist in the Denver metro area, just 15 minutes from downtown over in Lakewood. When you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam with them, you get a free Sonicare toothbrush just for taking care of your teeth. So be sure to do that as well. The toothbrush it's pretty sick. I'm not going to lie to you. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. How do y'all celebrate Halloween? Any music, movies, decorations, parties, etc.?
I saw this question, just honestly felt bad because it's like
we don't really, yeah.
Like if you'd swapped us out for Megan and Jesse, you probably have a much better chance of getting a good answer here. Those are 2 people that actually live their lives and have fun and, spend time with other human beings. The 2 of us don't really do stuff like that. For me, I don't really do anything for any holidays at this point in my life. I celebrate my birthday. I've always really liked New Year's, but the people in my kind of inner circle don't.
And the Avs always play on New Year's Eve.
Well, and I've always like going out after the game or whatever has always kind of been like, okay, well, let's do this thing or whatever. And I like that was the thing. I guess that's just a part of my life that's over because the people around me just don't feel the same way about it as I do, which is totally I love those people to the point where it's like
It's all
It's
good.
no big. It's no big deal.
I think
Um, I've tried to care about Christmas in recent years, and all it does is really just make me angry. So, uh, I've actually, for whatever reason, I've decided that I'm getting Z cool stuff for Christmas this year. Even though we don't really do Christmas like that, like it's not really a thing.
it's
But
you get married and then your holiday thing is, yeah, I'm gonna hang out with my wife.
well, and like honestly, that's what I've done the last couple Christmases anyway.
Yeah.
Like before we got married, right? Like it was like
Yep.
we're just gonna spend our time together. The last
Uh,
Christmas that we spent apart, uh, I badly wanted to be spending with her. I was like texting her while I was out with other people, and it was like,
uh,
anyway. For
yeah.
Halloween, I don't do anything. I've never done it, even as a kid. I stopped dressing up really really young and like I dressed up. I did like trick or treating in like a full costume, like a couple times. It was really just not my
A-
thing.
AJ doesn't need Christmas movies. That dude's already watching Hallmark Christmas movies on the weekends.
Yeah, I mean, I used to love Thanksgiving because I loved the idea of having an excuse to get together with my family and have a huge thing. And I loved like Thanksgiving food, like the meal kicks ass. I loved Thanksgiving as a kid. And then, my family sort of fell apart as I got older and it stopped being a thing. So I don't really celebrate that shit anymore. I think the last 2 years I've been on the road for Thanksgiving. Um, and I
Yep.
will be again this year.
Yep.
So, you know,
Um, I did buy candy for the first time this year. Maybe we might actually get some trick or treaters here, so that could be that a thing. Uh, Next question. Blake asks: there's been a lot of talk about the zone defensive system compared to the man defensive system around the NHL. Which one do y'all prefer and why?
yeah, I mean, it's not like black and white like that. It's also
Yeah.
how do you break out? It's how do you play in the neutral zone? What are
Even
you asking of the players? What personnel do you have to run those? For
it's
me, I'm gonna prefer zone over man every
it's
time.
I as far as an in zone defense, like in the defensive zone, there isn't really ever truly a man D because hockey is so fluid. You're constantly switching, you're constantly handing off players that,
Yeah,
yes, technically you have a man that you're marking in your area, but it's always a pseudo zone. Outside of like very, very specific players, like teams love to mark specifically Ovechkin, guys like that, you never really playing a true man.
yeah. I
But
mean, we all remember Patrick Waugh when he got here. Tried
yep,
the first like 2 months. He was like, "This is how we're gonna play." And it was horrific,
yep.
horrific. And you know, not that his adjustments were so good, but things did get a little bit better when he gave up on that. But you're right in that, like a true man on man, it just doesn't really work. It's not great because the game is so fluid and guys are constantly in motion. You got five guys that are doing stuff at all times,
Yep. Uh,
and
and then obviously special teams you are forced into playing zone because you
yeah,
just
and
have
those
less
are
dudes.
those are the different systems for special teams are always I find those a lot more interesting.
Diamond versus box, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, how do you know, like you want to play a little umbrella action and on
Yeah.
the power play or, you know. And anyway, I'm more of a zone defense truther, but if you have really really good players, you can get away with some man, but the problem becomes then you have to have really smart players that make
Yeah.
all the right decisions.
They have to understand the positioning so well.
And it puts a lot more emphasis on team defense than your defensemen themselves.
Yep.
Because if you're constantly handing off and switching and blah 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 blah, then and obviously team defense is already the primary concept is how they all work together. But I do think it's asking a lot.
We can take some questions from the live chat here. Oro asks, "What is your all-time favorite hockey player name?" It's Radek Bonk.
Yeah, it might be Radek Bonk. Yeah, yeah. Because I can't come up with an alternative. I think I'll default to using Radek Bonk as well. It's a great name. It's truly a great name.
It's an excellent hockey name, to say the least. Hayden Hockey, very good for a goaltender.
I mean, the Avs traded for that guy, that goaltender whose last name was Wall.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And that was like, yeah, that's appropriate.
Is that a real person? Joran Van Pottelberg? Bergie?
Yeah, I mean, every year somebody's like, here's my draft list of top prospects, and it's like the all names list.
It's a good one this year if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, and like there are some tremendous names every year in the draft, but Radek Bonk is a great name.
It's an all-timer, to say the least.
It's a great name. Imagine getting to go through life every day being Radek Bonk.
Andy asks, "Is Landy going to Sweden?" I know he won't play. I assume you mean Finland. I don't know. I don't know why he would go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just to be part of it, but it seems like if you're trying to rehab and just had surgery, that may not be very sitting like that on a plane, even a charter plane, for that many hours seems like it just would not be very fun.
Yeah,
the only reason I think he would go would be because he's captain and there's something that they're going to ask of him to be there.
Yeah, try give him any guns. Another great name. Byram for Pedersen. Never going to happen, but would you say yes?
No.
Me either.
Why would I?
Breaking up the best defense in the league is not the way.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Getting another wing is what you need.
Also true. Landy's surgery, I'm not sure if it was the same one he got. It was the same knee, right? But
it was the same knee, it was a different surgery.
Yeah. So I know they said once they got back to training it was bothering him, so they had to go take another look at it.
It was weird to see like him wandering around and doing all the things all the time and then just being like, well, he's not even on the ice, and then he gets on the ice and he's like, it's bothering me, and it's like, all right, let's clean this up.
Hey Jay, have you even listened to the T Swift album yet?
Not yet.
Are you still putting it off?
Well, I'd started it and then something came up. I was on the second song and something came up and I was like, okay, well, this feels like the universe is telling me I'm trying to force this. So no, I mean, we've got so much time off in the next week that I will probably be cool. Like I'll
get around to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been spending a lot of my the time that I would normally listen to music. I've been rewatching a show called Heart of Dixie.
Oh my god.
Yeah, rewatching, by the way. I've already seen this shit. I don't know. I don't know why. Sometimes I miss living in a small town in the South.
Feel good or bad about the fact that I know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we saw the temporary locker room at the Coyotes rink and all. I'm not dunking on them, man.
I just don't care. Like,
well, and like
everything that's been said has been said about it.
They're in such a difficult situation, and to see people like derive glee out of that,
they're suffering.
Weird. Yeah, is because like sure the Coyotes there have been plenty of mistakes made, but at some point like you've got to just get over it and be like, just let them be. They've got to make the decisions that they've got to make to try and stay and to deal with the circumstances that they deal with. Like, I guess for me, I get really worn down watching people constantly bag on them.
Same.
And because like the
It's
Coyotes, like, and especially since we've gotten to know
the
their fan base
PHNX
a little
people.
well,
Yeah.
and like we've gotten to know their fan base a little bit better. You really have a better appreciation for how much, like, is it a big fan base? No, not really, but those people care a lot, and the
Well,
constantly trying to drag that
it,
organization
it
is just lame.
it's exhausting for me. I can't even imagine what it's like for the team and the people who cover it. Like,
Yeah, and I understand why they're like as defensive as they are of it, because that's
I mean, the
it's
vote's
been
supposed to be
nonstop,
in.
man. It's been nonstop. Even when they were good, they're in the Western Conference Finals. You still have people from Canada that are like, move them to Quebec.
Yeah, I mean, those people. Okay, whatever. They do have their vote on their new arena in a month, so hopefully that goes through for them.
Yeah, and I hope they get it, and I hope that they stay, and I hope that they win a Stanley Cup someday.
Yep.
In Arizona, and
Dunk on all the haters.
Quebec can continue to claim the '96 Cup as their own. That's fine. I'm
Stay
happy
mad.
with that.
Stay mad, Quebec.
We're totally happy to share that with you. Is it weird to you at all that the NHL is next to the NFL in terms of teams?
Yeah.
Like, I was going through some NBA things the other day. I was going through the NBA numbers, and I couldn't. It was blowing my mind that it stopped at 30. I just could not get it through my brain that the NBA stopped at 30.
Say whatever you want about Gary Bettman. You don't have to like the guy, but his lasting legacy is absolutely going to be the expansion of the NHL and the growth of the game.
Yeah, they've gone from 24 to 32 in his time, something like that.
Yep.
And it's slowed down quite a bit, obviously, because it went, it blew up.
Yeah.
For a couple of years.
In the early
there.
90s there, it was popping off.
Well, and then at the start of the 2000s, they bring in,
two more teams.
Franchises?
I mean...
Because it was Columbus...
and Minnesota.
Nashville, Minnesota.
Nashville was late 90s, I guess. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, because it was like, there was just like a couple year span there where those teams all sort of came in together.
Yep.
But yeah, wild, man. It's wild that they're at 32, and I see the NFL talk about expansion sometimes, and I'm like, their schedule at 32. You're already in 32 cities. Like, I don't know. It's interesting. I wonder when NBA expansion and MLB expansion might take place.
I mean, word on the street is Vegas and Seattle for the NBA.
Yeah, I'm really skeptical on Seattle, because Seattle is the ultimate. Oh, you can't get an arena built? Well, we're gonna move you to Seattle.
It's their Quebec for sure. Yeah.
And knowing that that's a viable location now, and knowing the history and how badly the league wants a team back there, whatever. I wonder if Seattle is more valuable to the NBA as the constant threat of relocation.
Yeah. Yep.
Versus actually just dropping a team there. I would love for them to drop a team back in there, though. Vegas also, baseball has been talked about. MLB has talked about.
They have.
Expanding.
They're probably going to move the A's, right?
Yeah.
We'll
see. I mean, that's been both the A's and Tampa Bay, the A's and Rays, both of them.
Well, Tampa was the Montreal conversation, right? But
yeah. They need somewhere to play.
Where would you want to see an international game?
Bulgaria.
There you go. For Georgiev.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a ton of other ones now that they're getting Finland. They've done Sweden. The Avs didn't do it, but Nashville did. Czechia.
Yeah. I mean, Germany would be cool.
Germany would be cool.
This is such a good generation of German players.
Yeah.
Paterka has broken in full time. Reichel will be a full timer next year in Chicago. Obviously, you still have Grubauer and Draisaitl.
Yep.
Stützle in Ottawa.
There's a
you've
lot.
got some. Yeah, you've got. It's a great German generation for them to have an excuse to do that. It would be really cool.
My argument is just have the NHL join the Champions League. I think that'd be fun. But anyway. Okay. I
always forget Mo Seider's German.
He is German, yeah.
Yeah, I always forget about it. He plays for Detroit, so I just think he's naturally Swedish. I think all their guys are Swedish.
Seeing any other questions? So we're going to wrap it up for today. We appreciate all y'all hanging out, asking questions, listening to answers. Tomorrow, obviously, game day. We'll have a pregame.
Got the Devils
post-game.
Did you see that weird-ass fog they had to practice in yesterday?
Yeah.
That was intense, man. I was like, dude, I would take 2 steps on that ice and say I'm good.
Nope.
Do you remember? I don't know if you were going to training camps back then, but I think it was Waugh's first year. They had such a problem with the ice. The temperature was all messed up.
Yeah,
the whole thing was fogged out,
completely out. Yep.
And they couldn't use that rink.
Yep.
And so we had to use the other rink, and then they just shut it down.
You had the one rink, yeah.
Yeah. That was a wild day because they tried, and guys were just eating it, and it was such a no-go that they were like, we're going to destroy this ice if we continue.
Yep. 2 things. One, we already mentioned it, but Megan's piece on Kevin McDonald, definitely check that one out. It's a really good one. And 2, probably not today because he's traveling all day, but starting this weekend, keep an eye out for a lot of stuff coming from Jesse in Finland. We have a lot of cool stuff planned on social media and YouTube and all of that stuff. So that should be fun. But for today, we're going to get out of here. We appreciate all of y'all. Until next time, we will talk to you later.